When you clearly don't work somewhere, but people seem to think you do. Welcome to this episode of I Don't Work Here, Lady. Our first one is from MJ Chick. This happened quite a few years ago to my then boyfriend, now husband, and I was on hand to witness and intervene. He's Korean, I'll refer to him as BF. I'm not, and this happened in Korea. This context is important. So BF absolutely loved H&M, mainly because it was cheap and there was always a sale going on. Every time we went out and passed by a store, we had to go in it so he could browse. For a good portion of our relationship prior to our marriage, boyfriend always had at least one piece of H&M clothing on. So one day, we stopped in an H&M in the super busy tourist district. I'm not a huge shopper, so I kind of just looked on as he went from rack to rack and looked at the clothes, prices, etc. He was reaching up to grab a pair of shoes off of the shelf when a lady moved next to him. She looked to be in her mid-40s, maybe older. She wordlessly pointed up at the same shorts that he had been reaching for, so he just grabbed her another pair. He's about 6 feet, 182 centimeters tall, and she was tiny. So I figured he was just being helpful. Suddenly, without even thanking him, she proceeded to shove all of her items into his arms. "Now," she began in English, "I need this, and these, and these." I could understand the confusion. Boyfriend was indeed dressed in the store's clothing, just like the employees were. However, they have very obvious headsets and tags, which of course he didn't have. Another hallmark of that particular store, again, tourist district, was that almost all of the employees spoke English. My husband's English, by his own admission, wasn't the greatest then. He could understand the majority of a conversation, but wasn't confident enough to articulate his thoughts. And he just stared down at her, a bit dumbfounded as she tried to order him around. I had a bit of a laugh at his expense before I stepped up to help him. "I'm sorry," I said, "but he doesn't work here." She barely gave me a glance as she started pulling on the sleeve of his shirt to hurry him along. Finally, I took the clothes out of boyfriend's arms, shoved them back into the lady's arms, and repeated loudly, "He does not work here." She finally gave me a once-over, and if looks could kill, she would have reduced me to ash. We left the store a few minutes later. Once we got outside, he turned to me and exclaimed, "But I don't work here." I have a good chuckle every time I think about it. I definitely could get the confusion if the store employees are actually wearing the store's brand as well as your boyfriend, but at the same time, if they have something so distinguishing, like a headset and a tag, I don't really see how you can make that mistake. This next one is by Owlish Delight 72512. So, I'm sorry this isn't quite along the lines of someone working in a store and encountering a Karen, but this happened to my husband and it was funny. He was walking out of CVS earlier today, just as another dude was walking into the CVS. Dude saw my husband and immediately put his hand up to his brow and said, "The few, the proud." My husband was just like, okay, and kept walking. Not sure why that guy did that, considering my husband is not in the military and never has been. Also, he was wearing a red O'Neill t-shirt and gray pants with a Toro Automation baseball hat. So, dude was saluting an O'Neill shirt? The only logical thing I could think is that they assumed your husband looked like somebody maybe they used to know, maybe they served within the military. I don't know. Otherwise, that is pretty weird. This next one is from Evil Zippo. So I'm betting on the general assumption that someone in dress clothes being mistaken for a store employee. In fact, I was actually applying for a job at this store, so I was also a guy in dress clothes, typing away at a computer console. So double threat for being mistaken as an employee. So I was hammering away on my application, which basically consisted of me copying my info from a random job application I carried with me to copy what I hadn't memorized, and I was making alright progress. Then someone asked, "Can I ask you a question about these rabbits?" I've had rabbits before as pets, so I didn't mind giving her some info just because she asked. So I continued with my application, and she continued to admire and talk to the rabbits. She asked me another few questions as I continued and was basically ready to adopt this pet, just from my help. As I finished applying, I started to put my things away. She asked if she could hold the rabbit she was interested in and was shocked when I told her I don't work there. I walked up to the counter, got the attention of an employee, and had them take over helping the lady. She didn't end up going for this rabbit as a pet, but she made sure to tell them I almost made a sale. I didn't get an interview, but had I got one, I had a funny story ready to tell if I did. I'm sorry you didn't get the interview, but I definitely agree that would have been a good story to tell the hiring manager had you gotten it. This next one is by AJ Campbell 86. As a security guard, I often have to deal with customers from stores. Normally, it's to get them to leave if they're doing something the store doesn't like. But on this day, I got to tell off an impatient Karen at Ross. So, for some backstory, I was stationed as security for a shopping center, and as part of my rounds, when I first clock in, I would check in with the Ross, as I was always called in to help them with stopping someone from stealing. On this particular day, the store was packed. I was talking to the loss prevention person stationed at the door, checking in to see what manager was in charge for the night, and seeing how the store had been so far. Out of the corner of my eye, I see two ladies standing at the jewelry counter, waiting to be helped and glaring at us. Loss prevention informs me that he's already called someone to help them, but they just hadn't gotten there yet as it was slammed and all hands were needed to ring customers out as the line was almost out the door. It was so long. As we're finishing up our talk, which was maybe only 3 minutes at most, I turn to walk out the door and finish my rounds when Karen suddenly yells towards me, "Excuse me, I need some help here," in a very rude tone. Not missing a beat, I turn around and look at her. "Ma'am, he already called someone for you," points to loss prevention. As you can see, they are swamped and the line is long. Maybe you should grow some patience and learn to wait your turn. I then walked out of the store with the biggest smile on my face and my inner customer service rep clapping at finally being able to tell the Karen off. I never could really understand those impatient customers. If you go into a place and you need assistance and they're swamped, you need to expect to wait because you're not the only customer in the store. Now I know a lot of these entitled people think they are, but they're really not. And our final one is from Global Eyes. Could be what I was wearing, but multiple people in the past have also mistaken me as a worker, even in normal clothing, in a dress code place. Was actually at the mall with my significant other and we were looking for a dress for a wedding we'll be helping with. So of course we stopped at all the stores inside. I was in the back of the store waiting for my significant other while he tried on some clothes he was planning on switching out for the wedding. So as he takes a while, I patiently wait right outside of the small dressing room. Then I eye some on sale panties I like that are displayed a bit away from the dressing room. So I get out of my way from the entrance and start subtly shifting through them to see which designs I'd want. Keep in mind, the workers are working in fashionable, all black tight clothing, but I wore more bright natural colors in loose clothing and in a skirt. Some teenage girl walks near me, then kind of shifts in place before I turn to her and smile as "Oh hey there, didn't mean to get in your way." She starts talking immediately though. "Oh, can I use the dressing room please?" "Oh yeah, you definitely can." I responded like this because I had assumed she knew I wasn't a worker and that she just wanted to make sure if she could just walk into an open stall. But based on my response and relaxed tone, she made a face of pure embarrassment while gasping dramatically. Her mouth just hung open as she stared unblinkingly at me. "Oh my gosh, you don't work." Then she blinked her eyes tightly and did an embarrassed, wanting to die inside screech laughter, fish gasping for air sound. She was literally hunched over and moving in slow-mo as she laughed. She was even comfortable enough to sloth clap her hand onto my shoulder and move both of us around drunk-like because she was so intoxicated with her embarrassment and laughter. All of that. Before saying in a very whispery, raspy, dried-out laughter tone, "Here, I thought you were a worker here." Of course I laughed with her. I could see how my clean, natural look might confuse her while I stood next to the dressing room. Maybe my panty hunt looked more like arranging the products. After she wiped her laughter tears, apologized and went into the dressing room, and I told her it was fine and laughed back, my significant other eventually came out of the dressing room and told me he heard the entire thing. And we head over to the next store. To which, in short, another lady mistaken me as a worker in a dressing room. I definitely get confusion happens, but I also know there's so many places when they have employees, the easiest surefire way to identify an employee from a customer, just look to see if they have a name tag. Whether they have uniforms or not, just look for a name tag, because that seems to be the surefire way to identify an employee. Alright, that's enough stories for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of I Don't Work Here Lady. If you liked the video, please drop a like. Share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons, have a great day and stay safe out there.